Today we are answering our most asked question, which is how do you save time and sanity while lesson planning? We hear this from you guys on every single outlet you can communicate to us with. And don't worry, I have 3 things you can start doing right now to save your sanity with lesson planning. But first, a story. I used to be a Sunday planner, meaning I would do nothing else on Sundays until I had finished an entire week's worth of lesson plans. That meant getting up early, getting out all my materials, making sure I had my manuals and all of my standards and everything I knew that needed to happen on the calendar that week. And then going subject by subject and planning 5 days at a time. Did it work? Yes. Did I have a life on Sundays? No. Talk about a case of the Sunday scaries. This system is what I did for so long, and it never worked well for me. That's why these 3 things I'm sharing with you today have completely changed how I lesson plan, and I'm sure they're gonna help you save some time too. Tip number 1 is to batch your lesson plans. Think about when you're baking in the kitchen. It's so much easier to create things in a large volume. It's easier to do 2 dozen chocolate chip cookies or even 4 dozen chocolate chip cookies than it is to do some chocolate chip cookies and then some coconut macaroons and then some peanut butter cookies, and I think I want some Jell-O after all as well. Instead of hopping from item to item, when you're batching, you're creating things in a really large volume. That's one of our favorite tips to give educators when it comes to lesson planning. Instead of hopping from subject to subject, we encourage you to think long-term for 1 subject at a time. Let me tell you a little bit more what this could look like in your classroom. When I am batching my lessons, I'm gonna think 1 subject area at a time. And I'm going to focus on not just 5 days of that subject. I'm gonna aim for 5 to 6 weeks of that subject. And I know what you're thinking, that's a huge amount of time to devote to 1 subject. But next week when you go to plan, that's 1 less subject you're gonna have to focus on. So when we say 5 to 6 weeks of the subject, we mean everything. Pull your resources, pull your worksheets, where are the assessments going to be? What things do you already have to help you teach that skill? What things you're gonna need to add to help you teach that skill? Focus all your energy on that 1 subject area on that planning day, and then you get to ignore it for however long you planned for. Once you're in a cycle of batching your lesson plans, each week then becomes devoted to just focusing on 1 subject. This means your brain can really focus and you're gonna get your work done much quicker in the long run. Tip number 2 for that lesson planning sanity is to use and prep your resources as far in advance as you can. For example, I use these close reading passages every single week in my reading stations. This is one of the activities my students are working on while I'm pulling my reading small groups. Instead of prepping these every Friday before for the next week, I prep a whole month of them at a time. Even better, I know when a classroom volunteer comes in. So this is something that somebody else copies for me and gets ready. I get the whole month of reading passages ready to go because I already know I'm planning for this. That automation of what you're going to be working on in the future is going to save you time when it comes down to lesson planning. Maybe you always do a set of task cards each week. Maybe you have the same early finisher activities. Run those in advance, have the copies ready to go, and your resources at a hand's reach when it actually comes time to teach and work on that content. My 3rd and final tip today to help you with that lesson planning and preserve some of your very valuable time is to focus on building a long-range plan. For me, I love having a long-range plan, especially now that I spend my time batch planning, because once you've established a really solid routine, you can then go and pull directly from your long-range plan. Now, that 6-week planning cycle is even easier because I've done this system for a few years. Instead of starting from scratch every year, I have a really clear direction of where I'm going, what tools I have to create those resources, what PowerPoints I already have made, and I even like to put notes in my long-range plan for what went well from the previous year and what I want to tweak moving forwards. A lot of districts have a long-range plan. It's great to take that and then flush it out with your daily lesson plans. My long-range plan actually looks like a Google Sheet with tabs at the bottom. Each tab at the bottom is a different unit of study. So when I get to my fractions unit in math, after I finish my multiplication and division unit, I click on that tab, and every lesson that I taught the year before, the order that I taught it in, with standards and notes and the resources I use, are all lined up right there ready to go. Creating a long-range plan for yourself is such a great way to capitalize on the energy you're already putting in on your lesson plans year to year. Nothing is worse than feeling like you're constantly recreating the wheel. You are doing amazing things in your classroom, so take the time if you can to put all those great things in an easy to find place for you. Create that long-range plan, and lesson planning for the future is gonna get easier. If you're looking for even more advice to help you save your time, your energy in the classroom, and maybe even help you love your job again, make sure you check out How to Love Teaching Again. It's available everywhere you buy books. I have to tell you, it is a beautiful collection of ideas, stories, and advice for you to help you love teaching again. Make sure you check it out. As always, if you are not already, please make sure you subscribe to our channel. We put out new content here every single week. Let me know down in the comments, what else do you want to hear from us in terms of saving teacher sanity or lesson planning? I'm going to have some videos that you're going to see pop up here in the cards of some of my favorite lesson planning content I've shared with you guys. More advice on batching, and even some examples of how I lesson plan for special events happening in the classroom. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, we hope you have a not so wimpy day. Bye!